Imagine discovering a blog where someone shares every emotional detail about their battle with cancer. You're extremely emotionally invested. I mean, this author is recounting their journey of surviving Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 4, multiple times. She constantly portrays herself as being weeks away from death, only to come back and say, I am cancer-free. This beloved churchgoer, I mean, she would give these speeches at church and people would literally just walk up on stage and throw money at her because, hey, what is $20 when I could be saving a mother's life? Not to mention her blog where people could freely donate as much as they wanted, and she ended up getting donations from around $80,000 to, $400,000 in donations. You donate money, gift cards, you're babysitting, you're donating your airline miles, all for our self-proclaimed living Fault in Our Stars. But what if your generosity was all fueling a carefully crafted deception? What if this person is exploiting your compassion to fuel her fraud? This story is true. It's the story of Amanda C. Riley, or cleverly named Scamanda. Today we'll be talking about her story. I mean, it is so hard to pick apart someone who you believe is faking cancer, because if you're wrong, that's a new level of immoral. But due to investigative reporters and of course our good friends the IRS, this scheme didn't last forever. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and let's get into it. Our story begins in 2002 when Amanda was introduced to the Riley family while she was in college. The Rileys were dealing with a challenging time. I mean, their daughter Jamie was dealing with a leukemia diagnosis. They wanted someone to provide stability, just be a friend to their daughter Jamie. I mean, she couldn't really leave and see a lot of people in her life because if she even caught a small cold, it could lead to her death. But what seemed like, luckily for them, Amanda was like a perfect fit into this family. This beautiful story took an unexpected turn when Corey, the father of the Rileys, decided that he was just going to pack up and leave. No, but actually just pack up and leave. I mean, one of the children literally had to call their mom while she was at work and say, Dad just left. It does get more complicated because Corey, who was in his mid-30s, he married Amanda, remember Amanda, who's in her mid-20s. Things did not stop escalating because guess what? Corey and Amanda decided they wanted full custody of Corey's daughter, Jessa. There were these tiny little sprinkles, just holes in her story before she even started claiming she had cancer and made this blog in 2012. Because in 2010, she kind of did this speedrun trial with her friend Lisa. One of the children who went to Lisa's daughter's school had a parent who was diagnosed with brain cancer, and the school ended up raising over $100,000 to help his treatment. When this conversation came up between Lisa and Amanda didn't really have a huge response. The very next morning, she calls up Lisa and she's like, hey, I have cancer too. And also, can you pick my kid up from school because I'm very sick from my chemotherapy? Mind you, she'd never told Lisa about her cancer. She never told her she was going through chemo and then suddenly all at once, but okay, whatever. Maybe she wasn't ready to come out about it. That was until Amanda came over and they had a little pool party and Amanda was going in the water and Lisa noticed that there was a little band-aid on the back of her head and she was like, what is that? And Amanda was like, I had fluid drained from my brain this morning. And Lisa was like, okay, stay with me here, but you got fluid drained from your brain this morning, okay? And they put one of those tiny Band-Aids on, like the circular ones that are so small that they're like the last ones left in your Band-Aid box. She's dunking her head underwater and Lisa's like, okay, I'm not a medical professional, but you know who is? My friend. And so she calls up her friend and her friend is like, that is absolutely implausible. Lisa was not happy about this. She was fairly certain something was off, so she just didn't want to make confrontation about it. She didn't want to talk to Amanda about it. Amanda did continue calling until Lisa finally answered. And when she picked up the phone, Amanda was like, I'm pregnant. And Lisa was like, didn't you say that you were dying? But Amanda actually had the very best response to this. She said her pregnancy was reversing the cancer. Time goes on and Amanda announces in 2012 that she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Alita, who is the ex-wife of Corey, and now Corey is married to Amanda, she felt really bad for this. I mean, she had experienced cancer firsthand with her daughter. But suspicions grew that Amanda was using her illness to avoid paying child support. Amanda was claiming that these cancer treatments had forced her into debt and she had to file for bankruptcy. Amanda presented a fraudulent medical bill that was totaling over $250,000. But she wanted 100% custody over her stepdaughter Jessa, which to me is like, so you can't afford to have your stepdaughter have full custody and yet you still want her? Our story really begins when Amanda had her first child with Corey and created a blog called Lymphoma Can Suck It. The purpose was to inform family and friends, to raise awareness, and it did gain a lot of attention from the very start. Soon after, Amanda added a donation link to supportamanda.com, which solicited donations for her medical expenses. Within 2 years, she raised over $60,000 with more than 440 supporters. Amanda blogged about this. She said, "Thank you so much. You have helped put years on my life, from your donations from $5 to $20,000. She was selling bracelets that said #Team Amanda. She had people offering to come and babysit her kids and clean her house. Even Chili's did a charity event for her. She found significant support from the San Jose Family Community Church, where she became a very admired figure in the young adult service called Encounter. Amanda shared her experience with the congregation, and they donated things like gifts, airline miles, spa days. She announced on her blog that despite being terminally ill, she was pregnant. Contradicting what she said to Lisa about her pregnancy reversing the disease, she told her blog followers that she actually didn't realize she had cancer because the pregnancy was hiding it. So to me, it kind of seems like Amanda was testing this whole thing with Lisa. She told her story, and when she realized that Lisa didn't believe her, she switched it up for her blog followers. Her story was especially compelling when she announced to her blog followers that she was pregnant with her second baby, who was her miracle baby. Amanda claimed her doctors were shocked by her ability to conceive, not only because of her IUD, but because of all of these rounds of chemotherapy. 8 weeks into her pregnancy, she announced that she was cancer-free, and she attributed this recovery to her pregnancy. But just a few weeks later, she reported a relapse, saying the cancer had metastasized to her lungs while she was 38 weeks pregnant. Despite this, Amanda's baby was born completely healthy, and she would show up in public with no telltale signs of chemotherapy. At this point, some people started to question her story. Amanda was frequently posting updates to her blog, although she conveniently omitted the names of any doctors, and when she took pictures of herself in the hospital, she looked unusually healthy. The only real evidence there was that she had cancer was she was taking photos in the hospital and she had shaved her head, but I mean, who would fake cancer? You know what I mean? Like, if you hear of someone who has cancer, the last thing on your mind is that they would be faking it. It was strange that she had her eyebrows and eyelashes after this extensive chemotherapy, though. But in 2015, a reporter called Nancy Muscatello entered this high-stakes investigation to uncover the truth about Amanda. Nancy received a tip from someone who was saying, "Hey, in my hometown, there is a woman who is faking cancer." According to this email, Amanda was using her illness to gain sympathy and leverage, securing a leadership position in her church, soliciting donations from members, and appealing the sympathy from readers on her blog. Nancy had to really walk on eggshells here because, I mean, if she was wrong, accusing someone of faking cancer could absolutely destroy her career. But this was personal to her. I mean, she had a sister who she had lost to cancer, so she was motivated to catch this fraud. So Nancy discovered Amanda's blog. She would scroll and see that this blog was riddled with contradictions. Sure, she knew a lot about it because she had a sister who had cancer, but she didn't know everything, so she did enlist the help of a friend who does work in cancer care. Together, off the bat, they found multiple contradictions, such as doctors prescribing medications that would never be prescribed together. She referenced participating in clinical trials that didn't exist or weren't happening at the time, but most obviously, when she said she was doing worse, it almost looked like she was doing better. Nancy found that Amanda didn't claim medical debt, just debt, but she was so confused because it was so easy to read it and be drawn in, only to be like, oh no, like I actually do think this girl might be faking. As she she dug deeper, she discovered Amanda was married to a man named Corey, and they were going through a custody battle with his ex-wife, Alita. Nancy very cautiously reached out to Alita because, I mean, for all she knew, Amanda and Alita were best friends at this point. Nancy was surprised to learn that Alita was already suspecting that Amanda was fabricating her illness and described Corey and Amanda as compulsive liars. Going back further, she discovered that Amanda's claims had actually predated her blog because in 2010, she claimed she had cancer and she had less than 6 months to live. Going back further, Nancy discovered that Amanda's claims predated her blog. In 2010, Amanda had told her friends that she had stage 4 cancer and had less than 6 months to live. In hindsight, now that we know the truth, my question is, why was Amanda always claiming like stage 4? It's like she wanted the very most sympathy possible, and then she would, get completely cured from it, and then she would be like back at stage 4 again. To me, it seems like she was very invested in this sympathy. Maybe it was money related and she knew that she might get more donations, but it's so sad. Amanda didn't know anyone was looking into her, and over the years, her claims only got more extreme. At one point, she claimed to be part of a clinical trial for a cancer treatment, Keytruda. She stated that not only would it cost her $12,500 a month, but she would also have to fly back and forth between New York every few months. Her followers were full of sympathy for her. They would pay for her to stay in New York. They would donate airline miles to her. This is because Amanda said that if she didn't get this treatment, she probably wouldn't make it to New Year's. And again, I'm wondering, did she go to New York seriously every few months? I'm assuming she did, because if someone donates airline miles, wouldn't they be able to tell if you're using them or not? And if she did go to New York every time, what was she doing? Just shopping and seeing the ball go down in New York during New Year's? Amanda's blog post showed her in hospital rooms, but Nancy noticed one pretty glaring inconsistency. Amanda claimed that now they're allowing her to self-administer Keytruda at home, which is actually pretty much unheard of in clinical trials. Nancy was very smart about this. She actually called the hospital that Amanda claimed to be at, and she was like, hey, are you guys doing a Keytruda trial right now? And they were like, no. And she was like, okay, if you were doing a trial, would you allow them to self-administer it at home? And they were almost shocked that you would even ask that. Absolutely not. Keytruda needs to be stored at below freezing temperatures, needs to be reconstituted in a ventilated pharmacy, and needs to be given in an IV form. Nancy fact-checked a lot by calling all of these different hospitals Amanda claimed to have visited, including City of Hope, Johns Hopkins, Columbia, UCSF. She even confirmed minor inconsistencies, like she would look at, oh, Amanda's wearing a yellow hospital gown in this picture, and she would look at the hospital gowns of this hospital that she claimed to be at, and the hospital gowns would be white or something. After this meticulous investigation, Nancy felt like she had a pretty good amount of evidence that something wasn't right here, but what could she do? Of course, she presented this to law enforcement. She reached out to the Financial Fraud Division of the San Jose Police Department. After repeated phone calls and emails, Detective Jose Martinez finally responded. Detective Martinez knew this would be really difficult. I mean, you can't just call up a hospital and be like, hey, did you have someone called Amanda Riley here today? Was she here for cancer treatment? HIPAA laws protect the privacy and security of a patient's medical information. So whenever he or Nancy were to call, say, a hospital, they couldn't say, do you know Amanda? They would have to say, hey, did you have a patient here today who got this treatment and they claimed that they had a lung collapse during it, and the hospital could sometimes answer this? Especially since sometimes Nancy would actually explain what was happening to a hospital, and they knew something was up with Amanda too, so they wanted to help without compromising HIPAA laws. Detective Martinez started doing the same thing Nancy did. He went through her blog and started documenting these inconsistencies. Together, they took their findings to our good friends, the IRS. The thing is, lying, it's not illegal. Amanda has every right to go online and fake cancer and get all of this attention and sympathy, But what is illegal though is asking for money or getting money under false pretenses. Every donation under Amanda's Support Amanda campaign would be fraudulent if they could prove that she didn't have cancer. It took months before the IRS could get an investigator involved, but after time, Special Agent Arlette Lee took up the case. After a discussion with Detective Martinez, Agent Lee decided it was worth pursuing and began a formal investigation. But now this was a formal investigation and a federal case, so everything would be confidential. This kept Nancy in the dark, where she would just have to hope that they would find what she had discovered. As this investigation progressed, so did the custody battle between Alita and her daughter Jessa. This was such a bitter and drawn out process, lasting years, literally. Amanda and Corey were trying so hard to make Alita look like this unfit mother, even alleging drug use. I personally come from a split family, and custody battles are so difficult. I get it, it's difficult on the parents, but I would argue it's harder on the child. Why did Amanda want custody of Jessa this badly? A lot of people hypothesize now it was to keep this perfect image in her head because she always referred to Jessa as her bonus daughter. Amanda even shared this on her blog, painting herself as the victim of, Corey's unstable ex-wife. Amanda would even say to Jessa that your birth mother is a liar, and in a lot of cases it was just so ugly, like she didn't even put her birth mother as an emergency contact for school. In court, Amanda was claiming that Alita was mentally unstable, a drug addict, and abusive. She even claimed that Alita was trying to turn Jessa against her father, which actually it was the exact opposite. The weird thing is that during this trial, Corey and Amanda stayed so cool and chill, whereas Alita was very upset by these accusations. Alita was so valid in having these reactions, but in court, it kind of made her look more guilty. Amanda did end up getting full custody of Jessa, and I just cannot imagine how Alita must have felt during this time. They were very strict on Jessa. They wanted her to get very good grades, but okay, valid, a lot of parents want that. After school, they would have Jessa take care of her younger siblings because Amanda was too sick, and I don't know where Corey was. He was at the gym or something. Jessa was a young teenager at this time, and one time she noticed an IV in one of her brother's bedrooms, and she's like, that's odd. And she also noticed that Amanda wasn't going to a lot of doctor's appointments anymore. When she was finally able to get on the phone with her birth mother, Alita, alone, she was like, something seems off here. That's when Alita confessed to Jessa that there was an investigation going on about if Amanda even had cancer at all. Alita admitted she wanted to protect Jessa by not telling her, but this girl was just too smart. Now Jessa, this young teenager, has to be living with her stepmother who is allegedly faking cancer, and she can't say anything about it. If Jessa said anything, this would be foundation for Amanda to take Alita back to court and be like, look, she's lying to my stepdaughter. At this point, Nancy knew that Amanda was going to find out that she had this whole investigation against her, so she said, Alita, it's fine to bring this up in court. Amanda responded predictably. She framed herself as the victim of this malicious plot. Amanda even blogged about this. On top of her cancer battle, she's also dealing with this person who is trying to ruin her life, the enemy, she called her. This only drew more sympathy for Amanda, and Amanda became convinced that Alita was part of this whole smear campaign. She was telling everyone that Alita had hired Nancy to make all of these false accusations. This only damaged Alita's reputation more, and people were believing Amanda without any questions. Good news though, in 2016, Nancy received a tip that there was going to be a search warrant at Amanda's house. And it was true. Before the sun had even rose, the IRS and SWAT team raided the Riley household. They were leaving with boxes of evidence, but the weird thing is, Amanda was surprisingly calm. The IRS and SWAT team noticed these Xanax bottles, and if you don't know, Xanax is used as a calming medication. It is a controlled substance. So when they ended up interviewing Amanda about this, she was so composed and chill, and they were like, yeah, I can imagine you might be on Xanax. They hypothesized that she was using this medication to stay calm because can we just step back for a minute and imagine how anxious it would make us to fake something so serious? It's like every day you're living in the Truman Show, except you know that you're in the Truman Show. It's just, like you could get caught at any time. When news of the raid spread, Amanda's reaction to all of her blog and friends and family was that it was a case of mistaken identity. She said there's another Amanda Riley who is under investigation, but it's like, okay, no, there was actually another Amanda Riley who had cancer, but she had passed away a long time ago. I can imagine Amanda was pretty freaked out during this point, and she felt like she had to do something to silence Nancy. So she filed a civil harassment lawsuit and restraining order. She wanted Nancy to have no contact with any friends, co-workers, her, anybody. This lawsuit dragged on for 2 years. Freedom of the press, I haven't heard of her. And it cost Nancy $200,000. Amanda and her husband Corey alleged that Nancy got them fired from their jobs, left them numerous voicemails, and stalked them. None of it was true, and thank you, Judge. They saw right through it. Amanda's key challenge in winning this lawsuit was very simple. All she needed to do was claim that she did have cancer, and she couldn't do that. Which to me is like, yeah, you were trying to save your own ass, but like, the audacity. Amanda brought in a letter from a hospital to try to prove that she did have cancer, but it actually was not proof of anything. It was just proof that she was in a hospital. It's so funny because it was brought up in court that a hospital literally contacted Amanda and said, hey, can you please stop lying on your blog that you have been treated here? They presented an apology letter from Amanda to the hospital saying, sorry that I said I was treated there even though I wasn't. Amanda denied writing it in court, but basically the letter said that she was sorry she lied to her blog and said that she was getting treatment even though she had pretty much given up, and she didn't want her blog to think she was a loser. Despite the ongoing investigation and the raid, Amanda continued her charade. She quit her teaching job to get a job as a principal at a private Christian academy. Her only job history was like being a substitute teacher and working at a summer camp and stuff, so this was a little bit surprising. The roller coaster continues because Amanda showed some people a picture of her body and like the x-ray and all of this cancer speckled on it, and then she turned around and said that she was in remission again. Not for long, because she shared on her blog that she had relapse and it was no longer medically plausible for her to survive. It wasn't about being cured, it was about quality of life. She had 3 to 6 months to live, and she just stopped blogging for about 5 months. She kept it up behind the scenes though, because this school was great. They made a fundraiser for her and another teacher who were struggling with cancer. They raised thousands of dollars, and my question is like, why were you keeping this up behind the scenes? Like, was it really so? This is just Michelle. But were you so upset that another teacher might be getting attention for their genuine cancer that you needed to have a fake relapse? I don't know. That's just me though, like my opinion. At one point, Amanda actually went to the San Jose Police Department and she showed them a stack of papers. She gave them a stack of papers proving that she did have cancer, but it was actually just a medication list of things like Keytruda and other medications from a self-populated list website, which basically means that you can put whatever you want in it. I don't understand why she would do this. Maybe she thought that just giving this would be good enough, but it's like, doesn't that dig you kind of a bigger hole? Because if you really wanted to prove you had cancer, wouldn't you bring the stacks of paperwork from all your cancer treatment? The IRS ended up sending everyone who had donated to Amanda's website a letter informing them that they were part of a fraudulent scheme. Almost everyone here genuinely believed Amanda. Good friends were reaching out to her and they were like, hey, I got this letter. Amanda said, yeah, there is an investigation going on, but it's because I didn't know that I had to pay taxes on these donations, and so once I get them paid, it's all good. A lot of friends believed her, and for friends who questioned her further, Amanda literally agreed to FaceTime with them while she was in the hospital allegedly receiving chemo. She was hooked up to machines to prove her illness, and my question is, like, at the end of the day, how did she do this? Like, she didn't really have cancer. My thinking is that she went for another reason. I mean, you can show up to the hospital and be like, hey, you know, you can go to the emergency room, or you can go to the oncology department and be like, oh, you know, I have cancer, I'm dehydrated. They might not ask you for like your medical paperwork. They might just hook you up to a machine. In 2020, after years of investigation, IRS agent Arlette Lee filed a formal complaint. In July of that year, 4 years after the raid, Amanda was finally arrested and indicted for wire fraud. Many thought she would plead not guilty, but in October of 2021, in this Zoom court hearing, she pled guilty. But during her plea, Amanda never admitted to faking cancer. At age 36, Amanda was sentenced to 5 years in prison, 3 years supervised release, and in order to pay restitution to her victims, but only those who contributed over wire transfers. Those who gave gifts, spa days, Christmas presents, gift cards, babysitting. They were not legally considered victims and therefore got no restitution. I suppose it does depend on how much money you donated. Like, say you gave her $20,000 in cash, I'd be like, I would be very upset about that. However, most people seem to be more upset over the fact that they had been conned like this. A lot of people were very personally affected by this, whether it was because it touched their heart or because they had family members going through similar situations. Amanda began her sentence in 2022 in Fort Worth, Texas. According to her public defender, Amanda acknowledges the seriousness of her crimes. She feels remorse and wants to make amends to those who she's hurt. But it's like, you know, one way, just an idea, that you can begin to maybe make it up to people is that you admit that you faked it in the first place. It's so strange because after the plea and before sentencing, Amanda and her family actually moved to Texas. Here, she continued to try to seek treatment at hospitals under false pretenses. Fortunately, unlike some other states at the time, Texas had this internal database that kind of connects patients throughout whatever hospital they go to. So this put an end to her scheme. I'm not really sure what she was doing with this, whether it was like to gain more sympathy while she could, or try to prove she had cancer. That's just Michelle though, like I don't know, I don't have any proof for that. Amanda's ability to sustain this deception for so long stemmed from exploiting medical loopholes. People said, well, maybe she fake fainted or, you know, fake some kind of illness or just showed up at the ER and that's how she got all of these pictures taken. Also, I don't know if y'all have ever like been to different hospitals, but some of them, a lot of them are very easy to just get up and walk around. People don't know why you're there. In fact, I take someone to physical therapy in a hospital and we literally walk right past the oncology department. She could easily just take a little selfie right there. She was also part of some cancer support groups online, which to me is very disturbing because not only was she asking for their sympathy, but I'll bet my bottom dollar, y'all, that she was like taking what they were saying and using it as her own story. Equipment she had that led credibility to her story, like these oxygen tanks, could be easily bought online. People were so shocked to hear about this. I mean, can you imagine? People who went to church with her, okay? So she wasn't speaking this time, she was at another person's service. Amanda was sitting down and listening to this service with her friends, and she was like whispering to one of her friends and she was like, I'm not feeling very good. She kept saying that over and over, and then she was like, no, I need to get up and go get some water. And then when she was just about to leave the church just to go around the corner, she fainted. At this point, she was not doing well because of her cancer. The church called an ambulance and she was sent to the hospital. And that just makes me think, like, when you got to the hospital, what did you say? Did you say, like, I have cancer, this is why this happened? Or were you just like, oh, I just passed out from, like, dehydration or something? But anyways, the weirder part is that people on Facebook the next day were kind of talking about it, like, oh, somebody passed out at this church. And she responded to the comment being like, ha, yeah, that was me. I was the one who passed out. And even some of her friends were like a little bit confused by this. They were like, why would you say that? After this, Amanda announced that she needed more money for additional testing, treatments, new medication, and members of the church felt very bad for her. A lot of people stepped forward and donated a lot of money. And my question again is like, what made you decide that today is the day I'm gonna go to church and pass out and go to the hospital? It's like, were you at home earlier today and you were like, today is the day that I'm gonna do this because I need more money/attention. Another question I have is how many people in her life actually knew about this scheme? I mean, her husband Corey said that he sat through chemotherapy with her many times, along with her mother. I mean, a lot of people are like, mothers should just know, but like, I don't know about that. But she did end up buying a very big house during this whole time that Amanda was saying like, I need money so that I can continue living. And ever since Amanda has been in prison, she never reached out to her bonus daughter Jessa that she spent years trying to get custody of. Luckily, Alita and Jessa have reconciled and they're now living together, and very happy ending for them, seriously. Amanda Riley was scheduled for release in 2027, but there was an update. Nancy Muscatello posted on Instagram literally the other day, "This notice is to inform you that Amanda Riley has been approved for placement in a community corrections center, otherwise known as a halfway house, and will transfer from this institution on July 28th, 2025. The inmate is scheduled to release on December 24th of 2025. The inmate is not eligible for parole." How do you guys feel about that? And what does that say for future scammers? Like, it's okay to do it because it's 3 years in prison if you get caught, you know what I mean? So make sure to comment below what you guys feel about this situation. I'm obviously not Amanda, but part of me feels like she's not really sorry, because it's like, if you were sorry, wouldn't you have admitted it before you were literally legally obligated to? Anyways, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, turn the bell on if you're feeling risky, and comment below. Let me know if you'd like more videos like this. Thank you so much to each and every one of my members for supporting my efforts on this channel. It does mean the absolute world to me. But to everyone, I hope you have a good day, night, whatever the case may be, and stay safe, don't fake cancer. Goodbye.